before, but I was just saying that like
Yeah.
uh, it's really cool to see competitive players transition from game to game. And I do think Doug would be a great UFS player, so maybe I'll try to entice him.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
had
try to do it
started.
too much, like in terms of demoing, because those guys are like very competitively like. If they wanted to try out my hero, I've always been like, hey, if you want to try it, I've got decks, but they've never like taken me up on the offer, so I'm not going to push it. Um,
Yeah. The It was interesting when he was talking about how much he likes Flesh and Blood. I could see like your expression just sort of jilt just a tiny bit. You just went a little dead eyes, looking forward. And we've always described it as sort of like a baby UFS kind of thing. It's very interesting to me with the design I've seen specifically from set one, mostly set one, but even a little bit with set two. Flesh and Blood actually looks like a very balanced version of the goals behind the designs from the My Hero Academia card game, which is essentially that you should be rewarded for playing cards offensively on your turn.
mhm.
Like the greatest reward should come from enhanced steps that you take on your turn, which of course in our game, because of the way that the hand refills, kind of flips to the more stuff you can do on your opponent's turn, the further ahead you can get. And
Right. Yeah, it's Flesh and Blood certainly is like the first set especially was just like balanced around how the interaction between red attacking is against any card blocking, right?
yeah, and it
Yellow
was very
cards go
much designed
neutral.
like your life should be going down a little bit if everyone
Mhm.
is playing optimally.
Yeah, yeah, like somebody's gonna die eventually, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's sort of it very quickly ran off the rails, I think. But
Yes.
I don't have I like that game. I think it's really good kitchen table stuff. At competitive play, I think that it's like your decks have to be so tuned to the point where you don't get to play options, and that's the one flaw for me is that because I'm an options player through and through. I want to play options, but like actually having options is a terrible idea because in UFS, your options stay on the board state, and in that game, you have one spot to put your
Yep.
option, right? And that's it. If you get multiple options at the same time, you can only choose one of those options to really truly use, and
The
your trap card can only stay around for as long as you have that little piece, right? And I don't want to go too hard into the flesh and
right.
blood thing, and I'm not here to shit on the game or anything like that. I think it's a great game.
No,
It's
no,
just a
no.
different
It's
skill set. It's a different skill set, a different deck building mindset, and it's just not one where like I excel at because there's things that I like that I can't do in that game.
right. They
Um,
I think they designed the game very well for what they were trying to do. Like
yeah,
that's sort of what I was trying to get at. And it does remind me a lot of the goals of the the My Hero like hyper offensive like sort of super OTK style of stuff that we get from whenever when we talk about it, it usually comes down to, well, you have to have that to get over like the ultra super hyper defense. Like because defense is naturally rewarded in this game because you block and get cards you don't want on your turn out of your hand to draw
right.
more cards. The exact opposite of Flesh and Blood. Um, you have to have like this sort of stilted offense that is always technically, theoretically, on paper, mathematically better than your defense because the system mechanics prefers that defense.
Right.
And for a long time, the design mantra was people gotta die. That was
Hmm.
Bebop. That was how Bebop was coped with. When Battle for Power dropped, we saw the first decks that were like ignore progressive on half your attacks, and it was like people have to die because Dimitri is unkillable unless you play 7 attacks in a turn. And it wasn't because he was blocking everything either. It was just attacks weren't like tuned that way. And so, it's been a thing for almost the whole time I've been playing the game that offense has to keep getting better because anyone who's good at the game will figure out the defense.
Right.
And that's it's tough when you don't feel like you can play that defense. It feels like you're just going to fold to these turn two Asuis and Tokoyamis and things like that. Um, and that's where I get sort of chapped on like I get like that's where I get sort of the comparison for me is like Flesh and Blood felt like it was always going to come to a conclusion. They made it best of one to just make it clean and simple. I like their pre-sideboarding thing, but it all feels like the game is designed with an end in mind, and I like the fact that with Universal Fighting System, Universes, My Hero, whatever I've played, it always feels like there's an open sandbox, and half the time you're just trying to survive the army men in it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good way to put it. And I for sure prefer, I prefer UFS, My Hero, Universes, whatever.
Right?
It's the capability to scale pretty much infinitely, and that like a block modifier matched to the right zone completely blocks that attack is such a huge thing for me, right? Like I love matching zones. I
Mm.
think it's the coolest thing ever because it means that no attack is truly unblockable, and we hate when attacks are truly unblockable. That's lame. That's cringe.
I mean, there was Revoke in that format, so
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, you're preaching to the choir, man.
yeah. It. I just thought that little part was funny, and when we talked about the judge call that I had mentioned in the Magic the Gathering Pro Tour at the top tables, where the judge came over, got down at eye level, and was like, "Look, we talked at the beginning. Be very
Hmm.
careful about specifically tapping. There's definitely like this judge cadence, and Doug definitely has like a bit of it, right? Like you can tell that he's got that where,
Oh yeah.
the just watching videos of Magic judges like talk about judging resources and stuff. They always have a very particular, specific cadence to it, and I always think that stuff's like really funny. I think that stuff's like very interesting to see like how they all like morph into like the same person almost.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the brown note of judging, right? Like they hit the same timbre and cadence of their vocals, their
Yeah.
vocalizations, and it's consistent with like I think helpful authority figures.
Mm-hmm.
Like when a police officer is not in like police officer mode, they have I think a similar sort of it's a reassuring cadence,
Right.
right?
Because
And
you're dealing with an issue, right? You're dealing with a
yeah,
dispute.
trying to help somebody. Um, and like when I was teaching, it's the same thing. Like the hey everybody, I'm teaching you something is a totally different cadence than the well, let's learn about the subject cadence, and that is also totally different from I'm pissed at you, you fucked something up, I'm calling your parents, um cadence, and being able to wear those hats is good. One of the cool things Doug said was he was talking about how the Discord should be a separate thing so that he, speaking of hats, so that the judges can put on different hats depending on which Discord they're in, and I think that's a great that's great. That's
The
wonderful. So that people can get into the right mindset from when they are in like judge mode. Um, I think it was a great point to make why it shouldn't be in like the My Hero Academy Discord, like the official Discord, because uh, I already don't like how the rules section of that Discord is just like a clusterfuck.
it's just an open-ended channel, right? Like
Yeah.
the biggest issue for me, the one thing I would change is I want there to be official rulings that can be handed out through a forum like Discord.
Yeah.
And like I don't think that there should be staff there 24/7. I don't think that there should have to be someone ready to go to answer your kitchen table games at a moment's notice. But I
Hmm.
do think that there should be a difference. There should be an official, searchable, findable FAQ database, whatever way, where someone comes and asks a question, and someone who is stamped approved can do this will just come and say, "This is the official ruling." And I can just run with that because too often I will ask the question, I will get an answer from two different people and go, okay, this seems good. And then find out that everyone was wrong later because the game is not that simple. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it sucks because you go, I asked, I did my part, I did everything I could. And then it still came up in an event and I still got judge damage. Like it still turned out to be wrong. And I wasted all this time, even though I did my part. I did everything I could because there is no official resource.
Yeah, it's one of the those failings I was talking about. It's just like the documents aren't they aren't comprehensive enough. And I'm sure that eventually it will get addressed, and hopefully that video helps to like, hey, say we need this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It is frustrating.
One of my least favorite things, and this happened a lot over COVID, for a lot of the events that happened. The online events. I don't know if you remember. I would go into the rules Discord of the unofficial Canadian players. It's just the highest congregation of players at the time. Discord, and I'd ask, "Hey, how does this work?" And
Right.
this is a universes podcast, so I will talk about dead card games. And specifically, if you remember the Joffrey stacking, where if you started as Joffrey 2 instead of 1, he has a once per turn ability. You could
Right.
stack him on, gain the ability, lose the character card, lose the ability, gain it back. I never made that deck because literally every event that happened, or every time I felt like playing it was up to an event, I would ask the question. I would not get an official answer. I would get ask your judge at the event, and I said, I'm not going to sign up for a fucking tournament to find out later if my deck works. I'm not going to
Right.
fucking do that. So that's a deck I've always wanted to play, and never will. I never will get to play that deck, and I don't know if it even works. You know? So that's something I've done multiple times with multiple cards. Not so much with my hero. They've definitely kept the interactions down, but man, I know this is going to be way too deep for a lot of people. I actually went on the Wayback Machine and looked at the old Jasco forums, little snapshots that they have. They have pretty much none of the threads left, unfortunately. But you can look at like the topics in like the most recent poster, and you can like hover over it and see like the start of the message. And I remember I found my old username. I was like one of the last people to post when that screenshot of the website was taken. And I was asking about a really stupid interaction for a deck that wasn't any good that became really good later, but I never really played it because it took too long to get an answer for. I did get an answer for it from Garrett Brett actually, and like I just I still get frustrated that like I have to ask if I can even make this deck if it's possible, and it takes I usually never end up making those decks just because it's not clear cut.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't ask anybody, and then brazenly build my shitty deck that has a stupid interaction in it and assume it works, and then I get told it doesn't or does because I'm an asshole.
But I'm just trying not to do it in a tournament. I'm trying not to show up to a tournament and sign up, and,
Sure.
and
Well,
that's a sore
to
spot.
give you the that's what happened with Mark Tyner and Verdant Slaughter. He just showed up and he was like, I was like, does that work? And he said, gonna find out.
Yeah, and then I don't think it ever came up for him, right?
Yeah, nobody called the judge.
Oh, I thought he never actually even used the Verdant Slaughter in
Oh,
hands.
he used it against me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You didn't call a judge? You just let him get away with it?
Yeah, because I didn't care.
Well, and it probably didn't change anything for the most part, but
No,
I'm
I
like,
was dead that turn regardless. It was like I didn't
yeah.
have an answer to it, kind of thing.
That's
But
actually the truest answer. Is whenever shit's a problem in our game, it usually just never comes up anyway, and people get butt hurt for no reason.
yeah. All right, well, I've got about maybe like 10-ish minutes here left. Do you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I got you, man. It's I did want to ask you about your weekly events, your weekly, the webcam weeklies that you're running over in the Unfun Stuff Discord. I figured that would be a good topic to bring up, give you a chance to plug all that. You see, I got the links for the socials, but if you have a link for the weekly signups, it's tomorrow, right?
Yes, yeah, I've got a. It's always in the announcements, of course. If you do sign up, please don't forget to sign the Google form, or you will not get you will not get your prizes.
Okay,
Um, Here, I'll send it to you so you can put it in your chat because Jose
gotcha.
is not logged into Twitch.
Fair enough, fair
Um,
enough. Yeah. And I've got the links to the YouTube. If you guys go to the YouTube and you subscribe to the unfunstuff.com YouTube, in their videos, they do have this link to the Discord as well. Let me put this up here real quick. Here's the link to the Play MHA event for anyone who's hanging out or watching this VOD later tonight. Um, yeah, so you guys are doing webcam weeklies. You're doing them every week. It's $10 to sign up, and you get 2+ ultra packs for participation. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
And then it's the last Friday of every month. You guys always do a themed event as well.
Yeah, every month, the last week is I'd call a weird thing, right? Whatever you like. Last month we did old heroes, new quirks, where we had any Jasco era character can be played and with a My Hero proper deck.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a teams event. We had an all might event. I think this month is going to be where we test the singleton decks, right? Our commander esque sort of thing.
Okay. Now, is that
And
going to be like 4-player pods, or is it going to be single player?
I think it'll be 4 player pods. We're going to figure out
Okay.
how to make that work.
That's
Um,
something I've been very interested in. I've talked to Nilmerg actually about it, and we like it. Just you always get into like this weird discussion of like you have everyone who's got like a different angle they want to approach it from. There's always like one rule people want to change, and I'm
right.
really excited that someone is kind of taking hold of that because I've been really passionate about trying to do like a multiplayer format, but I don't have a platform. Like I don't have like a way to a succinct way to bring people together to just say, here, just try it, just start it one way.
Yeah, just go. Right.
Yeah,
We'll
like
figure out what's wrong with it, and we'll go from
yeah,
there. And
like
yeah, that's my thing. Is I would love a more casual format because it feels like anytime we talk about the game, it's always like the sweatiest version of it, right?
oh, that's
And
useless because Ibarra's -1 damage enhance. And it's like, bro, who's playing Ibarra? Ibarra's
Keenan Meadows,
17th place, exactly.
yeah. And he
Yeah.
cited into kamui in every game.
Bro, oh, that's the most depressing. That's you could have just started as damage
Yeah,
bump.
that's what he said. He said I should have just played kamui.
Yeah. I think I don't know if you saw the conversation I had with Jose. I was actually like, Kamui might be a deck I could pick up, but I would need Jose's blessing. And he didn't give me his blessing, so I know if I try to sign up with Kamui, I'll go like 4-4 at best or something. You know.
Yeah, it's true.
If you're not
I
gonna get
literally
the
took his deck with me actually when I went to Indianapolis. And I played it in the first provisional day, and it was like 6-1 or 5-1-1, one of those, I can't remember.
yeah.
And the last round they announced the board game thing, and I was like, oh fuck this, and I dropped it and just played in the board game thing.
There you go. Yeah. So I knew when I like asked him about it and he sent me back like a 50-50 answer. I'm like, nope, not doing it. Not even
Oh
gonna try.
yeah, no, you need the true blessing. I literally had his deck. It was like keep sleeve the cards. I didn't take it out of the sleeves.
Yeah. I know I got you here for just one more minute, so I'm going to ask you one more question, and hopefully it's not the most detailed answer, but I did recently have someone bring your Momo deck or something very similar. It was a couple cards different, right? Like, and I talked to you about it where I tried playing it on TTS. I found out, by the way, that the version I played did not have any of the DLC foundation.
Oh,
So that was definitely a big deal.
that card's
And
good.
yeah, the card is really. I had a lot of release and a lot of rescue completed out, but I never had that one out with it, right? So,
Mhm.
and we're talking about like picking up playing other people's decks, and I know that you could talk forever, and you've got your own video, and I watched it earlier this morning. But if you can surmise in just like one sentence, like what do you think is like the difficulty of picking up someone else's deck, or why is it so hard? Like, why is it so like actually difficult to essentially net deck other people in this card game? I know that's so big for just a minute, but it's going to be forever till I get a chance to ask you this on camera. So
No,
is
it's
there
fine.
like
I'm not like on a tight schedule, man. It's just
okay,
I am hanging out at Jose's, and I have to get up early tomorrow morning at some
right?
point. But one sentence is tough. I think it's just you
Well,
can't truly understand somebody, right?
mhm.
Like we try so hard on an interpersonal level. Like that's kind of like I don't know. I'm projecting, right? Because that's all I ever want to do is like have true empathy, right? I think that all of the world's problems would be solved. I know this is totally existential and has nothing to do with the card game. If we just all tried to understand each other a little better.
I think that my existential is if we could communicate with emotions instead of words, we could truly understand each other.
Oh, total. I agree with that.
Like on the
You're,
empathy
you're talking about
level.
new types from Gundam, man.
Is that really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's all new types are.
I've had people say that word to me. I thought they were talking about like Japanese transsexual people. So
No, no. So new types are, and I'm not even joking. It's pretty funny. They're people whose souls are no longer weighed down by Earth's gravity.
oh, fucking sick, dude. It hit me up. Like, call me up. Yeah, I had Thomas Gordon hit me with new types being like poison from Street Fighter or something the other day. So I'm in a different
Maybe they
mindset.
co-opted the term, but I just think of Gundam when I hear it. But no, I think it's like so. I don't understand the way other people play. Like I can't play like Tim Keefe. I can't play like Phil. I just
Yep.
don't see the lines in the same way they do.
Let me
Sorry, you're gonna say something?
Yeah, let me help you out. I think because I can the one sentence summarization I have for it is, and I was talking to my friend after they were trying to play the Momo deck, and they were like, "Well, just what do I do in this one situation?" I'm like, "You have to not get in that situation." Chris Bromley plays in a place to not get in that situation. Like it's a situation that he's fine being in normally, whatever the situation is, like as a player. But if you make the deck and you build it in mind that like a deck that just has like no low blocks, you're just like, okay, well I'll do other things to low blocks. I'll make sure or low attacks, like I'll make sure I damage reduce, or I have a fate shield, or I have a like you're just okay with that. Like you're okay with maneuvering around specific cards that you don't have answers to that other people would rather have. And I think that's really the big thing is you have to recognize what positions, what board states the other people are used to being in, because I'm going to play a release 9 turns out of 10. But really, if my deck needs to hold +2 high blocks instead of playing release, I need to recognize that. But because of the player I am, I will blow my whole stage away to stay alive because it's more important to me not to lose. And you have to understand like what board states you need to be in. And I think that's
Right.
That's my takeaway from this last Gen Con and from trying to look at like specifically the Momo deck and even the Asui deck, even to an extent, like people I knew were mulliganing for babies, for floating around my babies because of the repeatable damage pump. You need,
Yeah.
in my opinion, at least the way I play the deck, you need to mulligan for card draw. Like you need to find card draw more than you need to find damage, right? So
Right.
I think it's recognizing the situations and not relying on card evaluation.
Sure. And that's just understanding the mindset that the person
Yeah.
who made the deck came from, right?
Yeah, like it's one of those things where like I'm never going to play certain cards because I will always block with them, right? Or like in specific matchups, I recognize I need this zone block, but another player will always want to have that effect on their board.
Right. Everybody has. It was like the really interesting thing. We have all 4 of the Momo lists from Top Cuts, right?
Yes.
And I only played against one other Momo. It was Travis.
And of course, because
But
he's
like,
sponsored, he had to give you the win. We got it. We know. He had to,
yeah.
Travis
That's why I
is
was
really
quick.
good.
That's
He
why I
just
was
had
so
to
quick. He
slip
just
one.
conceded totally. I slipped him a 20 under the table.
Yeah.
But it's like apparent, right? Like none of us agreed on what the best Momo list looked like. Because
Right.
I was talking to Kevin Broberg before the event. I talked to Nate. I didn't talk to Travis too much because I didn't know he was playing Momo.
As from
About
what
the
I
deck
heard, it was
list.
a last minute decision after getting booty blasted by Momo
Yeah, by
trying
Nate.
to play Asui.
Yeah, yeah. But like, I remember talking to Broberg about like Bow Staff versus Future Charge, and And he was like, "Why the fuck would you touch that shitty card?" kind of thing, right? And
That's
just
where I
like
landed. I landed on both
we
stuff.
you land on both step,
I
and it's
landed
fine.
on both.
I disagree with that, right? Like
Yeah.
that's my thing is I would much rather have the high block than the low block in the deck because
High attacks are
low
scary.
attacks are not like relevant to me most of the time. They're lube most of the time. Like the only dunk in the format that's low is indiscriminate shock, and it's the most telegraphed move in the game. And I'm Momo. I can just destroy my entire board that is committed.
Yep.
you know. So that thing you were talking about like the low situation, I don't care about low attacks most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you can prepare for it too. You can tutor up your low blocks that you do have in the deck, so it wasn't like the end of the world. I
Right.
never
Like
needed to. Yeah, and it was like against the four big decks that I was truly scared of. It was like Tokiyami, other life decks, Asui, and Kirishima. All of the like big death moves, like multiple, like I'm gonna sling 30 damage at you this turn. Was like Texas Smashes in Kirishima, Frog Lashings in life decks, Dark Shadow Ruins in Tokiyami, and then what was the fourth one I mentioned? I can't
um,
remember. But
yeah.
in those three specifically, those are all high attacks, right? If they're gonna go Texas Smash, Texas Smash, Texas Smash, I gotta block two of them.
Right.
I need two high blocks in my hand. Same with Frog Lashing. Same with Dark Shadow Ruin. Like so. I want to be over prepared for high because of the way that I like know how I die in this format. But
Yep. And that just you can summarize it by just saying you have to know how each person plays that deck. I guess is
totally,
really the most simple way to put it. And
yeah.
it sucks because that seems like such a wild, too basic answer, but I think it is the most correct one. And
You asked for one sentence.
yeah,
It's gonna be
that's true.
basic.
That's true. Well, again, we could do the whole podcast on just like the perils of net decking and how to actually accomplish it and stuff. And maybe that's really what we need. Maybe we need more of the comprehensive, uh, deck profile videos. Because when I see the deck profiles, right, there's really two main types. It's the in-depth tournament report of what I did and what I would change, and it's usually just the here's the deck list type of videos,
Right.
and you point out a couple like really basic interactions. But what I need as a player personally is I need to see the board state. I need to see what cards people choose to keep. I need to see the order that they choose to build them in, like which ones
You gotta
are more
watch them
important.
play it.
Yeah,
That's
and it's amazing to me the actual, I guess, level of variance, like the way people can draw seven foundations and then have completely different staging areas depending on who's playing the deck.
so that's interesting because I hate watching other people play decks because it colors my own experience, right? Like
Well, because you
if it's
don't choose to
mine or
play
if
their
it's
deck, though,
theirs, because
right?
I'll just get upset they're not playing it the same way I would. Um,
But
because I'm a
you wouldn't be trying to play someone else's deck most of the time too, right?
no, definitely. I
Right.
don't do that most of the time. That's very true.
Yeah, this is like specifically like if you were trying to net deck somebody,
Right.
right?
If you're trying to exactly replicate the way that play, I mean, so UFS is so strange because of the way that we sculpt our boards in our hands that it's like it's so hard to get that exact. Like everybody's going to approach it different. I think that actually the answer is you should never actually net deck somebody. You should tune,
Yes.
right? You should recognize what you're good at, and if you're going to net deck somebody, you take their list and you tune it to your own needs because you're never going to exactly replicate the way that somebody is going to play the deck. Like I love putting out those comprehensive deck profiles because I think they're helpful for as a teaching tool. But I don't expect anybody like to take my deck list and we joke about it in my friend like Jose jokes about it all the time that like nobody ever plays my decks because nobody likes the way that I play. But my hope is that somebody sees the things that I'm doing and then tunes it up to do it their own way, right? Like
Right.
that's really it. It's just like, oh, I liked this thing that Bromley talked about. Let me go do that because that's all I do with Kevin Broberg's ideas. I've had no original thoughts ever. I'm just taking what Kevin Broberg said at some point, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Let me go do it my own way, you know.
Yeah.
And so like that's what I hope people do is that they just do to me what I do to Kevin Broberg and come back with something that they made their own
Yeah.
because
Well,
like I didn't land on Momo naturally, right? Like I played Toga for 2 straight months and was trying to figure out what the life symbol was best at, and then I watched Kevin Berberg Swiss champion event, and I was like, that deck is so fucking sick. You know?
Yeah. Well, and that's something that hurt me for a long time. I've been no stranger to net decking. Like if I want to jump from card game to card game, you have to start
Yeah,
with ideas from people who are more familiar. Um,
totally.
but what would kill me for a long time is I would see deck lists and I would look at the cards in it and I would look at each individual card and go, what does this card do here? What does this card do here? How does it synergize? And a lot of times it's just not about that. It's not about your deck necessarily working together. It's about that player having a need for their preference.
Yeah.
And so,
We just I was thinking about today actually was like I have such a comprehensive knowledge of this specific game, and like I don't have the brain power or time or inclination to like do that with other games. Like
mhm,
I can't do that with Pokemon. I can't do that with Magic. Like I have a Commander deck, but like I'm never gonna know every card in fucking Magic. It's never going to happen.
it's
It is not going to
impossible.
happen. Some people have that brain and they have the time and the inclination to do it, but I'm just never going to do it. And same with Yu-Gi-Oh or something like that. I have a Yu-Gi-Oh deck. I have a couple of Flesh and Blood decks. I don't know every card in Flesh and Blood, and so I have to net deck those games, or like I do the best I can with what I have, or something like that.
Mhm.
But because I don't have the comprehensive like card pool knowledge that I do in this game, it's much harder to innovate. I think in those games, and so like that's the thing, is that like you shouldn't feel bad if you're like on the other side of the fence, right? You're like a Yu-Gi-Oh or a Dragon Ball Super player, and you're like coming into the My Hero game, like you don't have to innovate. You should be able to just pick up a deck and play,
Yeah.
and then find out where your preferences are and like make the changes from there. Like that's basically what we're talking about. Is just like catering things to your own interests just slightly.
Well, and see, and that's one thing I struggle with is I'll hop over, especially to Magic, and I'll
Hmm.
be like, "Here's a really cool concept for a deck," but I want to wedge in like my own cute combo or like my own, add my own flair to it. And I've recently done this with a Magic deck where I changed, I think, 4 cards in it, and I
Hmm.
fucked the whole deck up somehow. Like the deck just never draws smooth. It now has 4 bricks in it when it's trying to combo off and draw a bunch of cards, and like
Right.
I don't think you find that in our game, and that's why you see people play over minimum so much. And
Right.
it's when I go to other games and I net deck, I don't get to express or modify because someone has already built like the best engine and the card quality around it. Because I play standard, I play the smallest card pools. That's a
Hmm.
part of it. There's not other options. There's not another better 1 drop. There's not a better 3 drop. There's not a 4 drop that fits anywhere in this deck, kind of a thing. And
Right.
so because of that, it's hard to it's just
The
hard to
expression
think
isn't
that
there.
that doesn't exist at all in our game. And it I don't know if it will. I don't know if it really can at like a high level. When Magic the Gathering teams come up with a deck, they play the same list because they've decided this is the best. These are the
Hmm.
matchups we're worried about, and any variation is generally just saying I want a worse matchup here and a better matchup there, and that's the only difference. And so I think people try to bring that to our game, and maybe it exists and we just haven't cracked that code yet, but I haven't seen it.
I don't think it does. I think it's mostly because of the draw one versus draw fucking modular amount.
Yeah. Like in Magic the Gathering, for example, like a control mirror, literally I've heard Louis Scott Vargas say, we added 1 card to the main board. They changed out 1 4 drop spell, like 1 4 cost CMC spell for a 3 cost that they had 3 copies of. They went down to 2 and added a 1 of. And it changed their win percentage over the weekend from 30 to 70 in a matchup, like 1 card main board. And it's
Wow.
because you will see that card, and once you see it, it alters the whole matchup.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, we don't
so
have that. We
yeah,
actually do not have that. Like
like
face shield is about as close as it gets to that, and it's not like that. There's no margin like that.
you buy 1 turn with that. You don't buy the
Yeah.
whole game, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
all right, man. Well, thank you for joining me. It has been an absolute blast. Sorry, Tam got all the viewers tonight. Tam started streaming at the same time. Nil was streaming, so
It's cool. They'll catch it later. They'll catch the vibe.
yeah. Hopefully, anyone checking this out, if you're on YouTube, you've checked out the VOD. I've got all the links in the Twitch chat for anyone who's still here to subscribe to Unfun Stuff. Go check out their store. Go pre-order set 3 right now. Right, you guys have pre-orders up, and we've
Right
got
now.
the weekly webcam tournaments as well. So you can get your Plus Ultra packs, you can get your loyalty points, you can get all signed up. It's all right there. And any of the videos that Bromley posts is going to have the link to their Discord where you can stay up to date with all of this information as well. So I hope to see
Totally.
you guys next time. I hope you had fun, Bromley, listening to yourself talk about
I
judging.
always do. Not the listening to me part, but hanging out with my boy, of course.
Yeah. And is there anyone else you'd want to address? Any shout outs you have to make?
Just Jose, dude.
We love Jose. He's the best. Well, I will
You already
see.
did all my shouting out, dude. You did my job for me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, it's important to me, right, that, if you have sponsors, if you have these affiliates, right, throughout your community, that you do promote them the right
It's
way.
the correct
Hopefully we
thing
get
to
that
do.
infrastructure set up. I
I
learned
agree.
recently I have to put Ace Maneuvers as my name instead of as the team name, so it shows up. The PPG guys had it, and I was like, how the fuck did they get their thing set up? And it's like, you just have to put it in your name instead of the team name. So
Interesting.
yeah, he just puts Andrew Duvall dash PPG in his name. I'm pretty sure. Right? Otherwise, there's something
Uh,
going on. But
right.
anyhow, it's important to me that we get the right plugs out. So I hope you guys all had fun. I hope you will all join me next Thursday for the Orange Card Blue Card podcast, and hopefully you'll join me this weekend. I believe, I can't make any promises, I'm going to try and stream my webcam provisional run.
Ooh,
I do
have
have
fun.
plans to do that. I don't know if I'm actually going to have the setup. I have a second camera coming in because my current camera, the one I'm using now, it's actually broken and like taped to the top of my monitor. So I have a video set up to announce the stream, but I did not release it because my camera got delayed from Amazon. So we'll see how
Uh,
that goes.
well, I hope it
But
comes in, man.
yeah, but hopefully you guys will see that announcement tomorrow. And if not, I will see you all next time on the Orange Card Blue Card podcast. Peace
I'll
out.
see you next time, Sam.